here at a lovely Glebe fishery, not too far from Peckleton in Leicestershire for this week's Fishing Live, and I'm going to bring you your weekly fishing forecast once I've landed this angry carp, which seems to be kiting towards me at the moment, which is not very nice when there's all this down the edge. Doesn't feel a massive fish, this. I've had some fish that's sort of 8-9 pound, and there's some even bigger ones in this lake. A 30 pounder which has been caught a couple of times in matches recently. All I'm actually doing today is feeding a few pellets up to the island. I fished a bomb underneath them, messing about with different hook bait combinations between the fat boys, fishery standard sort of feed pellets with fat boys moulded around them, and it's been really good because it's been one of them days where every time I've made a change I've had a couple of bites. And then I picked the Waggler rod up, and to be honest, the first sort of 20 minutes when I did it was absolutely solid. I caught one a chuck. It's just quietened off a little bit now, going a bit more cagey. I don't actually know whether they've followed the pellets back down to the bottom, so it might be a case of picking that bomb rod back up in a minute. I'm just going to show you when I land this carp what I actually do. There's a little bit of an edge at pellet waggler fishing which works quite nicely. The typical Glebe pot-bellied mirror, that is. All got bellies on them like me, and somehow it's picked up a branch on the way. You can see that. These are just lovely, hard fighting carp. Don't know where that's come from. Thin in the net, but you can see proper warriors. And the thing with all the carp at the Glebe here, they seem to fight within an inch of their lives every time. Right, so I'll just get that hook out. Got a Guru QM1 on there. It's a Guru QM1. I've just got some 5 pound Daiwa tournament mainline, 017 Preston power line up length, 12 QM1, and it's a Tez Knowles Waggler stuck between a couple of Drennan float stocks. Right, so he's in the net. Lovely fish. And I'll show you what I'm using on the hook, because this is quite a nice little trick, I think, for all you guys who like a bit of waggling like me. These are the Fuka 8mm hookable wafters. If I can actually get the band in my fingernail. I cut my nails yesterday, which weren't very well thought out, but there you go. You can see I'm actually fishing one of them on the hook. Looks just like a pellet, but it's got the added advantage, and I'll just show you in the tub. It's got the added advantage of falling very, very slowly through the water, much slower than a fishery pellet would fall. So that's lovely, and obviously we've got the Sensate attractant on there as well, which gives off a little fluke. We've got an army of geese here, folks, for me while I give you your weekly fishing forecast. So we'll try and catch another one. I don't know whether we'll manage to, because it's just gone a bit steadier this last sort of 20 minutes or so. I'm just feeding a couple of times before we cast. I always like to do that because it brings the fish in, hopefully. Right, so we'll have a cast, and I'll tell you all about your weekly fishing forecast, what I think is going to happen this weekend. Well, I think it's going to be a nice one. The weather's going to be very warm, saying 20 degrees. Oh, can't cast yet, there's 2 geese in the way, folks. They're on the way out now. Go on. Typical, isn't it? Geese. Yeah, it's going to be 20 degrees, it's going to be sunny weather, so I think Waggler could be a great tactic this weekend. The fish will almost certainly be up in the water. We're going to try and tickle that. There we are, just next to that bush there, you can see that where I just fed. Not too far. And I never leave it too long. Obviously, because I'm talking, I'm not going to try and feed and do everything, but normally we're looking to feed now and then twitch that back into the feed like that. And so basically you can imagine that wafter falls through the water, and then just as it settles, you pull it back and it comes back up. So you're getting basically 2 bites of the cherry on the on every cast if you sort of work it back towards you. But I never leave the Waggler out there for more than, or this time of year should I say, I never leave the Waggler out there for more than about 30 or 40 seconds before we wind him in and repeat the process. So yeah, up and down the country, warm weather. I'm a bit concerned that at venues where the fish haven't spawned yet, to be honest. I think they might spawn this weekend because it's getting to that time and that water temperature is getting to the point where it's absolutely prime for oh no folks, we're in the bush, don't tell anybody about this. This is awful. Better come out. That never happened. We never saw that, folks, did we? Nothing ever happened there, did it? So yes, it's getting to that point where I honestly think the fish might have a little spawn this weekend. What to do if they do? Well, leave them to it basically. That's my best advice, folks. You know, fishing in among spawning fish is asking for trouble. You're asking for foul hookers, you're asking for liners, and just basically, you know, you're not going to do the fish any good either. So I'd almost definitely try and avoid them if they're at it, and fish for other fish. I mean, all lakes, like this lake here where we are today, it's full of silvers, so have a day on the silvers if the fish are spawning. If they're not, it'll be waggler, it'll be shallow, it'll be edge fishing, I would imagine, because the fish will be up in the upper layers of water with that warmer weather. Have a little cast. Now, before next week's Fishing Live, next Friday, the rivers will be reopening, folks, so you'll be able to get out and have some early season magic, I think. The forecast next week looks pretty nice as well, so I think the rivers will be low. If you're going to hit the bank, I would have thought every chance of catching some barbel, some chub. It might be a bit early for big nets of roach and dace, they tend to follow later in the year, but I definitely think there's some big fish feeding, and of course you will catch perch, you'll catch some roach, but as we move into August and September, I think that'll be really when we start to see big small fish weights coming in terms of roach and dace and that sort of thing. But I certainly think it'll be well, it's always nice when it opens just to get back out and fish, but with the weather as it has been, with it being fairly warm, there'll be a lot of activity and movement in the rivers. I think if you're going to go out, you'll have a good day. Canals wise, weights are picking up from what I've seen, folks. Obviously I mentioned that April and May can be iffy months. We're getting into June now, so I think things will generally be improving on the canals. I saw some nice nets of fish from the new junction at the weekend. Aaron Calder's still ropey, but I know on the narrow canals as well as the Midlands and down south, there have been a few fish coming out. So tactics wise, you know, I'd be hedging my bets. I'd be thinking about catching some skimmers and some roach at the moment, especially with it being mild. And I'd probably, with it being nice weather, be picking the time of day when I go on the canal this weekend, because middle of the day in the weekend you're going to have a lot of boat traffic, a lot of cyclists, a lot of walkers. Maybe an evening session when things have settled down a bit will be a little bit more enjoyable for you, because you'll not have all that disturbance on the towpath. But I'd probably be looking at feeding some sort of 2-in-1 micros across the canal with a little bit of ground bait, and then fishing a 2-in-1 micro on the hook for some skimmers, and maybe feeding a little bit of hemp on a line and fishing a lighter rig with a black or white 2-in-1 micro on for the roach specifically. But you should get some bites. It's going to be a nice weekend, so wherever you're going, folks, have a good one, and I'll see you next week.